Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I'm reviewing a pen from a brand who I've not reviewed a pen from. I've looked at some of their nibs in the past, and that brand is Cypress. And the pen we are looking at today is this one. This is the Ravishing model D-CE05-B. Super trendy name. I'm just going to call it the Cypress Ravishing, and I will link to this exact pen in the video description below. So, Cypress is a pen brand from Taiwan. They've been around for a little while and are starting to pick up a lot of momentum in the industry now. Today, I'm going to talk about the parts and features of this pen. I'll do a writing sample, size comparisons, all that kind of thing, and then talk about a couple of little pros and cons. So the pen is made from, as the brand states, cellulose acetate. It has metal trim, chrome coloured trim, silver coloured trim. It's quite a lovely sort of darker chrome. It's a fairly traditional pen shape. It's got these lovely striations through the material, it's like a pinstripe suit, if you will. But it's got a really lovely modern feel and a very comfortable feel in the hand. The top of the pen is this sort of peaked dome. It's a nice sort of, polished torpedo shape that swells out, and then you get a little ring, which is not attached to the clip necessarily, but it's holding that end part on. The clip is cut in. It is a very rigid clip, but it is mostly usable. The cap continues to swell out till we get to this center band, which is a thin band, and then a larger band with Cypress in it there, which it's done absolutely beautifully, I have to say. There's a couple of different options you can get for this pen, and the cap band there is one of the things that changes. The cap then tapers down to the barrel join there, and the barrel continues along and then tapers through that silver ring to a nice elongated peaked dome on the end there. The striations of the material look wonderful through the ends as you get those beautiful ripples going through. This is a really striking pen, a very simple, elegant pen, but definitely striking. It is a screw cap pen, and it comes off in about 1 3/4 turns, which is perfectly fine for me. It reveals a tiny step down onto some squared threads there, and then a band, and then a section that is mostly straight until we get to a little flare on the end there, and then we get this number 6 Cypress branded nib. Now, Cypress make their nibs themselves. They are Yovo compatible, number 6 size, but they are Cypress's own nibs. It's got a very nice simple plastic feed on the back there. This is a fine nib. They come in a range of different nib sizes, and I've looked at the nibs in fine, medium and broad, and I actually have here to look at in this video today also their calligraphy or fude nib, which I will show a little bit later on. The pen is a standard international cartridge converter, and a Schmidt converter is provided with the pen. It's a beautiful, clean pen, nice, simple, system. It's got a nice sort of slightly cushioned cap there for capping the pen. The pen does post, I should say, and it's relatively secure. It's not, a lot of these sort of torpedo shaped pens don't post super securely, there is a little bit of give in it, but it is secure, it's not going to come off. It does make a slightly longer pen, but the issue for me is the balance when it's posted is that there's a lot of weight in this clip end here. So even though it's slightly smaller in the hand, as you'll see in the dimensions, I prefer to write with this pen unposted, and it's a lovely, lovely smaller pen in the hand. So that's pretty much the basics of this model of the Ravishing pen from Cypress. Let's now do a quick size comparison. I have it here alongside the standard Lamy Safari. It's slightly longer in this form than the Lamy is. Uncapped, it's noticeably shorter, although it's got a number 6 size nib, so that feeling on the page is nice. The length of the barrel is considerably shorter. And then posted, it comes in at a pretty healthy length there, still slightly shorter than the Lamy Safari, but not by much. So what are the dimensions of the Cypress Ravishing D-CE05-B pen model? Well, it is 146 millimeters when it is capped. It's 124 when it's uncapped. It's 166 when it's posted. The section is about 10.5 millimeters and around the cap is about 15 millimeters. So it's a fairly sort of standard size pen. And as I said before, small in the hand at 124 millimeters when it is uncapped and unposted, but a much better balance and a nicely sort of weighted, lightweight pen. In terms of weight of the pen, the entire pen weighs 26 grams. 15 in the body and 11 in the cap. So as I said, when you do post it, you do put a fair amount of weight on the back. So yeah, my preferred method of writing with this pen is unposted, even with it being slightly smaller in the hand. Let's do a writing sample now with this pen, and I'm going to start with the fine nib. As I said, this is the Cypress Ravishing D-CE05, and that's the B model of that. This is a steel Cypress number 6 nib in a fine, and it's lovely. The ink in this today is Diamine Majestic Purple. Lovely ink in a really lovely pen. Let's do this writing sample. Okay, so it is a smooth nib, but there is a lovely feedback on it. I commented on the feedback of these nibs when I did the little nib overview back in, I think it was earlier in December. And that's the same with this nib. It's a lovely sort of gentle feedback, pencil-like feedback that is actually quite nice. There's also a slight little bit of softness to the nib. Now, these are not flex nibs. I'm not going to push this to flex, but you can get a little bit of line variation without too much effort. And it does mean that you're putting down a fairly healthy amount of ink as well. In terms of reverse writing, it's actually very smooth on reverse, and you can get a couple of words out, so not too bad. Quick writing. Totally illegible, but to give you the idea that, yeah, this pen is keeping up and there's no hard starts, there's no issues there whatsoever. This is a lovely nib. As I said, this is the fine, and I have the Fude or calligraphy or bent nib, depending on which way you want to look at it, nib here. Yes, this is the way it comes from the manufacturer. It's designed to look like that. It's not been dropped. So I'm actually going to quickly swap this onto the pen. I'm not going to do a whole lot of writing with it. I'm just going to show it in action, and I'll talk about this nib more in a future video. I just wanted to see it in action myself. Okay, so I'm back now, and I've swapped in that nib, and I've primed the feed ever so slightly. And so Fude nib or bent nibs, calligraphy nibs, provide a very sort of wide line on the page, and if you change the angle, so flatter on the page you get a nice big fat wide line, and higher on the page you get a more narrow line, and so it's a calligraphy nib designed for that kind of writing. This writes so smooth and obviously very, very wet. It's laying down a huge amount of ink, but very, very interesting. I do enjoy Fude nibs, particularly myself, for sketching, because it allows you a large amount of sort of line variation for things like cross-hatching or shading or shadowing. You know, you can do a lot with this nib. And you can see here, this one writes absolutely beautifully and flawlessly, which is very exciting to see. But as you can see, even from that standard fine nib, a super consistent, reliable nib that writes beautifully with a hint of feedback, but a very nice, sort of generous fine line. So, what does the Ravishing pen from Cypress, this model of the Ravishing pen, cost? Well, this is the basic version with the steel nib in this version, and this retails for around the 4,400 new Taiwan or Taiwan new dollar. which is roughly 210 Australian dollars. Now you can upgrade certain elements of it, and the higher price point on the website jumps up to about 370 Australian dollars, which is about 7,740 Taiwan new dollars. So it's not an inexpensive pen for a steel nib, a cartridge converter pen, but you are getting an interesting material and a beautifully designed pen, and they're not super mass produced either, which is very, very nice. So what are the pros and cons of this pen? Well, I find it really hard to find cons with this pen. I think it writes magnificently and it feels great in my hand. One thing I will say is you can feel that step down onto the threads, not off the threads necessarily, and the threads are quite smooth. You can feel that step down, particularly if you hold the pen slightly further back. So yeah, you will feel that little step down. It's not sharp, but it definitely is a ridge. So that's just something to be aware of. And for some people, this pen is going to be too small unposted in their hand and off balance when it is posted. So it's going to be up to you in terms of whether this pen is comfortable for you. As I said, it's not the biggest pen and it feels slightly smaller in the hand. I think because it's got that sort of torpedo end, you do sort of feel a bit of the pen small at the back of your hand, but it is very, very comfortable. I also think that a pen with these features is probably at the top end of its price point, but not aggressively so. Okay, but lots and lots of pros. And the first one I'm going to say is how the pen is presented and packaged. This is the pen box. Now, it comes with, like warranty information and all of that kind of stuff. The pen was sent, it was in the box, but not in the pen tray, in a little fake velvet little sleeve, in a plastic tube, protecting it while it was in this box. You slip that off, but the box is a magnetic closed wood box. So it's got these magnetic points that lock in very, very nicely and securely. It's got the nice Cypress logo sort of, I suppose, burnt into the top there, or lasered into the top. And then the pen tray here. So the pen was like in there when it arrived. But it's very simple to put the pen tray in, and of course it will sit there very nicely. Now this makes a nice presentation box. It also makes a nice desk box for the pen, if you were wanting to keep the pen on your desk, but sort of out of the way. So beautiful, beautiful packaging, all for that kind of stunning packaging. I also love this material, and there are lots of really out there designs from Cypress that are really beautiful and vibrant, but this one called to me because of its classic elegance. It's got a nice shape for that. But these, like, as I said, the pinstriping of this cellulose acetate is beautiful. It's a really lovely material. Okay, so other things I like the balance of this pen when it's unposted in my hand. It's light, but it's very, very balanced. I love the fact that the pen comes with a converter. That's a really big tick for Cypress. I think they're doing wonderful, wonderful things. It's got a nice sort of cushioned cap, so it seals very nicely, and I've never had a problem with hard starts or the pen drying out or anything like that. And it's nice to feel that little bit of like resistance going in and that little bit of spring out, just enough to like make you know that it's engaging there. But a big, probably the biggest pro with these Cypress pens are the nibs, these steel nibs. I'm yet to try the Cypress gold nib. There are a few pen makers around, as well as Cypress, of course, using those gold nibs. But this steel nib, or actually the fine steel nib I showed, and of course this Fude nib, they write beautifully, but that fine is so lovely. It's a great everyday writing nib width. Not super wide, it's not super thin, lays down a lovely amount of ink, and it's super smooth with just that gentle hint of feedback. And also, it's got a slight little bit of bounce to it on the page, which makes it really, really nice. So it's really lovely to get a pen out of the box where the nib needs absolutely no tuning. I generally don't tune the nibs before a review. If I decide to keep the pen in my collection after a review, I will often tune the nib so that I get the optimum writing experience out of it, but so that I can give you, when I do the review, the best possible information about that pen as you may expect it. But this needed nothing. So big kudos there to Cypress for this wonderful pen. So this was the Cypress Ravishing D-CE05-B pen model. Really catchy name. I love it. So thank you for watching. A big thank you to Cypress for providing this pen for this review. I really enjoyed using it and showing it in this review. And as I said, I will do a more in-depth video about that Fude nib, that calligraphy, bent nib, whichever way you want to call it, in the future. I just wanted to show it today because I think it is very cool. So like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, all that kind of stuff. If you would like to support the channel, I would love to hear from you. It's your support that makes this channel possible. In the meantime, enjoy your pens, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.